Part 1. The helicopter blades cut through the night sky like a warning. Inside the emergency bay of St. Nicholas Hospital, Nurse Alina Cross stood at the sink, scrubbing her hands with methodical precision. The water was scalding. She didn't flinch. Outside, the storm was coming. She could hear it in the way the wind rattled the windows. She could feel it in the unusual silence of the radio channels. Something was wrong tonight. Something big. Alina dried her hands and walked back into the trauma wing. Her white shoes squeaked against the polished floor. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in cold, clinical white. She was 32 years old. Average height. Dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. No makeup. No jewelry except a simple watch on her left wrist. To everyone at St. Michael's, she was just another nurse. Reliable. Quiet. Forgettable. Dr. Marcus Hale didn't even look up when she entered the room. He was reviewing charts, his expensive pen clicking against the clipboard. "Cross," he said, not bothering with her first name. "We're short-staffed tonight. I need you covering trauma intake alone until the night shift arrives." Lena nodded. "Understood. And try to keep things organized this time," he added, his voice dripping with condescension. "Last week's paperwork was a disaster." She said nothing, just nodded again. Dr. Hale had been at St. Michael's for 3 years. He'd won awards. He'd been featured in medical journals. He treated nurses like furniture. Alina had been here for 8 months. Nobody knew. Where she'd come from before that, nobody asked. The radio on her belt crackled to life. "All units, be advised. Multiple inbound trauma. Military escort. 8 to 4 minutes. Dr. Hale's head snapped up. Military. What the hell happened? Alina was already moving. She grabbed the trauma cart, checked the supplies, began prepping the bay. Her movements were smooth. Practiced. Too practiced. "Cross, did you hear me?" Dr. Hale's voice rose. "I asked what happened." "I don't know, doctor," she said calmly. "But they'll be here in 3 minutes. We should prepare." The other nurses were scrambling now, rolling in gurneys, checking for lines. The energy in the room shifted from bored, routine to controlled chaos. Alina felt something else, a familiar tension in her chest, a sharpness in her senses. She glanced at her watch. The second hand moved with ruthless precision. Outside, sound of the helicopter grew louder. Then came the explosion. Not close. Maybe 10 miles out. But the windows shook. The lights flickered. Everyone froze. "What was that?" Someone whispered. Alina's jaw tightened. She knew that sound. She'd heard it a dozen times before. In places that didn't exist on any map, that was a military-grade detonation. The radio crackled again, this time with urgency and static. "All trauma teams stand by. We have 6 critical inbound. Repeat, 6 critical. Burns, shrapnel wounds, possible internal bleeding. 1 patient is code black." Code black meant dying. Dr. Hale's face went pale. "6 critical? We can't handle that. We need to call County General. They're 2 minutes out," Alina interrupted quietly. "There's no time." He glared at her. "I didn't ask for your opinion, Cross." She met his eyes. Just for a second. Something flickered there. Something cold and steady. Then she looked away. "Apologies, doctor." The doors burst open. Paramedics rushed in, faces grim, uniforms streaked with ash and blood. Behind them came the first gurney, a young Marine. Maybe 20 years old. His uniform was scorched. His face was gray. Blood soaked through the bandages on his chest. GSW to the abdomen, massive blood loss, BP dropping fast. The paramedic shouted. Dr. Hale stood frozen. Alina stepped forward. "Get me 2 units of Onagata and prep the OR," she said, her voice sharp and clear. One of the nurses blinked. "But Dr. Hale now," Alina said, and for some reason they obeyed. The second gurney rolled in. Then the third. The smell of burnt flesh filled the air. The sound of labored breathing. The frantic beeping of monitors screaming warnings. Alina moved between them like a shadow, assessing, prioritizing. Her hands were steady, too steady. Dr. Hale finally found his voice. "Cross, what do you think you're doing?" "You're a nurse, not a doctor," she said quietly, not looking at him. "With respect, if you're not going to help, please step aside." His face turned red. But outside, more helicopters were landing, and through the chaos, Alina heard something else. Boots. Heavy boots. Not paramedics. Soldiers. She glanced toward the entrance. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the flashing emergency lights. Tall, broad shoulders. Uniform dark with soot and blood. He was staring directly at her. Elena's heart skipped one single beat. Then she turned back to the dying Marine on the table in front of her. Not yet. She thought the storm was just beginning. If you want to see how Nurse Alina Cross handles the impossible tonight, subscribe now, because what happens next will change everything. The Marine's blood pressure was crashing. Elena's fingers moved across his chest, finding the entry wound with surgical precision. The bullet had entered just below the rib cage. Exit wound in the back. Clean through. But something was wrong. "Internal bleeding," she said quietly. "He needs surgery in the next 5 minutes, or he's gone." Dr. Hale stepped closer, his face pale. "We need to wait for the surgical team. There's no time." She looked up at the nurse beside her. "Rachel, call the OR. Tell them we're coming up now." Rachel hesitated, glancing at Dr. Hale. "Do it," Elena said. The authority in her voice was absolute. Rachel ran. Dr. Hale grabbed Elena's arm. "You don't give orders here." "Cross. I'm the attending physician." The Marine's monitor flatlined. Elena jerked, her arm free, and slammed her hands onto the young man's chest. Compressions, hard and fast. 30 seconds. Then she grabbed the ambu bag and delivered 2 breaths. "Someone get me the crash cart," she shouted. The room exploded into motion. Nurses scrambled. Equipment rolled. Dr. Hale stood frozen, his clipboard hanging uselessly at his side. Alina worked with mechanical efficiency. Chest compressions, breaths, checking the monitor, nothing. She charged the defibrillator. Clear. The Marine's body jerked. The line stayed flat. Again, clear. Another jolt. Another flat line. Behind her, she heard voices. Footsteps. The soldiers from outside were moving into the trauma bay now, watching with hard, unreadable eyes. Alina recharged the paddles. Her jaw was tight, her hands steady. "Come on," she whispered. "Come on." Clear. This time, the monitor beeped once, twice. A rhythm. Weak. But there. Alina exhaled slowly. "Get him to the OR. Now." The nurses moved fast, wheeling the gurney toward the elevators. Dr. Hale followed, his face still pale. Saying nothing, Alina turned to the next patient. Another Marine. This one was conscious, his eyes wide with pain and fear. Burns covered his right arm and shoulder. Shrapnel wounds peppered his side. "Hey," Alina said softly, leaning close. "What's your name?" "Corporal Davis," he gasped. "Ma'am." "Okay, Davis, you're going to be fine. I need you to stay calm for me." She began cutting away his uniform, assessing the damage. 2nd-degree burns. Multiple lacerations. But nothing immediately life-threatening. "Ma'am," Davis whispered. "The others? Are they okay?" Alina paused. She met his eyes. "We're doing everything we can," he nodded, tears mixing with the ash on his face. There was an explosion. At the base, everything just went up. "I know," she said quietly. "Don't talk. Save your strength." But her mind was already working. An explosion at a military base. 6 critical casualties. A code black. This wasn't an accident. She glanced toward the entrance again. More soldiers had arrived. They weren't helping with the wounded. They were standing guard, watching, waiting. One of them caught her eye. A captain. Older than the others. His face was hard, weathered. He had the look of someone who'd seen too much. He was staring at her with an expression she Recognized. Recognition? Alina's pulse quickened. She turned back to Davis, her hands moving efficiently over his. Wounds, cleaning, bandaging, administering pain medication. But she could feel the captain's eyes on her back. The radio on the wall crackled too. Life, attention, all staff. This is a code lockdown. I repeat, code lockdown. All entrances are now secured. No one enters or exits the building until further notice. Silence fell over the trauma bay. Dr. Hale looked up from the patient he was finally attempting to help. Lockdown. What the hell is going on? One of the soldiers stepped forward. Sir, this facility is now under military jurisdiction. Everyone needs to remain calm and follow instructions. Military jurisdiction. Dr. Hale's voice rose. You can't just doctor. The soldier's voice was flat. Final, please step back. Lena kept working. But her mind was racing. Lockdown. Military jurisdiction. Soldiers guarding the doors. This wasn't just a rescue. Mission, this was containment. She finished with Davis and moved to the third gurney. Another Marine, unconscious, head trauma. Possible skull fracture as she worked. She heard footsteps approaching. The captain, he stopped beside her. Nurse Cross. She didn't look up. Yes. I need to speak with you, privately. She said calmly. As you can see, it's important. So is keeping these men alive. There was a pause. Then the captain leaned closer, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. We know who you are. Lena's hand stopped. Just for a fraction of a second, then she continued bandaging the Marine's head wound. I'm a nurse, she said quietly. That's who I am. You're a lot more than that, the captain said. And we need your help. I'm already helping. Not with this. Alina finally looked up. The captain's expression was grim. The base that exploded tonight, he said. It wasn't an accident. It was an attack. And the asset they were targeting. He paused. It's still out there. Elena's blood went cold. What kind of asset? The captain glanced around, making sure no one else was listening. Classified bioweapon. Class 5 containment. If it's been compromised, then everyone in this hospital is already exposed. Elena finished quietly. The captain nodded. She looked around the trauma bay. At the nurses rushing between patients. At Dr. Hale arguing with one of the soldiers. At the wounded Marines fighting for their lives. Then she looked back at the captain. How long do we have? Unknown. Could be hours. Could be minutes. Lena set down her instruments. She pulled off her gloves. Her face was expressionless, but her mind was calculating. Containment protocols. Evacuation routes. Casualty estimates. Who else knows? She asked. Just the team outside. And now you. Keep it that way, Elena said. Panic will kill more people than any weapon. The captain studied her face. You're not surprised. No, she said. I'm not. Because deep down, Elena had known the moment she heard that explosion. She'd known this wasn't over. She'd known. Her cover was about to be blown wide open. Outside, the storm finally broke. Rain hammered against the windows. Thunder rolled across the sky. And somewhere in the darkness, something deadly was coming closer. Elena took a breath. Then she turned back to the captain. Give me a secure line, she said quietly, and find out exactly what we're dealing with. The captain nodded and walked away. Dr. Hale appeared at her side, his face flushed with anger. Cross, what the hell do you think you're doing? You can't just doctor, she interrupted, her voice calm but steel underneath. I need you to prep the isolation wing. All of it, right now. The isolation wing. That's for infectious. Yes, she said, meeting his eyes. It is. Understanding dawned on his face. Then fear. Oh God. Move, Elena said quietly. We don't have much time. Dr. Hale Randot Elena stood alone in the center of the trauma bay. Around her, chaos swirled. Patients, nurses, soldiers, monitors, beeping, radios crackling. She closed her eyes for just 1 second. Then, She opened them. The nurse was gone. Someone else was. Standing in her place, someone the world wasn't supposed to know existed. The isolation wing was on the 4th floor. Alina took the stairs, not the elevator. Elevators could be locked down. Elevators were traps. Behind her, 2 soldiers followed. The captain had assigned them without asking. They kept their distance. They knew better than to crowd her. She pushed through the stairwell door and into the hallway. The lights were dimmer here. The air smelled like disinfectant and old fear. This wing hadn't been used in months. Alina walked to the nurse's station. The computer was locked. She pulled a small device from her pocket, something that looked like a USB drive but wasn't tanned, plugged it in. The screen flickered, then unlocked. One of the soldiers behind her shifted. "Ma'am, how did you don't ask questions you don't want answered?" Alina said quietly. She pulled up the facility blueprints, studied the ventilation system, the exits, the weak points. If containment failed, she needed to know exactly how the contagion would spread. Her fingers moved across the keyboard, fast, efficient, pulling up files that shouldn't have been accessible to a nurse. Medical records, supply inventories, security feeds. The soldier cleared his throat. "Ma'am," the captain said, "you might need a secure phone." Alina finished. "Yes." He handed her a black satellite phone. Military grade, encrypted. Alina dialed from memory. No hesitation. 3 rings. Then a voice answered. "Olympus." "This is Artemis," Alina said quietly. "Authorization code, Charlie Tangos, 779er. A pause. Then Artemis. "We thought you were dark." "I was. Status has changed. I need immediate intel on a Class 5 bioweapon breach. Location: former Site 17, approximately 10 miles north of my current position." Another pause. "Longer this time. Artemis Site 17 was decommissioned 8 months ago." "There shouldn't be anything. There was an explosion 90 minutes ago," Alina interrupted. 6 casualties. Multiple military personnel. And someone is very interested in keeping this quiet. Shh. She could hear typing on the other end. Fast. "Pulling the file now," the voice said. "Artemis, this is above your clearance level. Then elevate me." "I can't just people are dying," Alina said, her voice hard. "And if what I think happened actually happened, a lot more are going to die. So elevate me now." Silence. Then, "Stand by." Alina waited. Her eyes never left the computer screen. She was scrolling through the hospital's patient database now, looking for patterns, symptoms, anything that might indicate early exposure. The phone clicked. A new voice came on. Older, male. Authority radiated through the speaker. "Artemis. This is Olympus Actual." Alina straightened slightly. Olympus Actual was the director. She'd never spoken to him directly before. "Sir, Captain Reeves briefed me on your situation," the director said. "I'm uploading the file to your device now." "But Artemis, what you're about to see doesn't leave that." Room understood. Site 17 was housing a prototype bioweapon designated Crimson. Dawn, airborne, fast-acting, hemorrhagic. Fever with a 98% fatality rate. The facility was supposed to have been emptied and sterilized. Lena's jaw tightened. "Supposed to have been?" "Yes. It appears someone kept a sample. And tonight, someone else tried to steal it. The explosion is meant to cover the theft. But it also compromised containment. We don't know if the weapon was destroyed in the blast or if it's out there." Alina glanced at the soldiers behind her. They couldn't hear the conversation, but they could see her face. She kept it carefully blank. "What's the incubation period?" she asked. 4 to 6 hours. First symptoms are flu-like. Fever, chills. Within 12 hours, internal bleeding begins. Within 24 hours, everyone's dead," Alina finished quietly. "Yes." She looked at her watch. The explosion had been 90 minutes ago. The Marines had been at ground zero, which meant the clock was already ticking. "Sir, I need full medical authority over this facility. and I need a containment team here within the hour. Already in motion. A team is en route from Fort Meade. ETA 45 minutes. But Artemis? Yes, sir? If containment fails, we have protocols. Alina knew what that meant. She'd seen those protocols before. In other places. Other emergencies. Complete sterilization. No survivors. Understood, she said. She ended the call. For a moment, she just stood there. The phone still in her hand. The weight of what was coming settling on her shoulders. Behind her, one of the soldiers spoke. Ma'am, what do we do? Alina turned around. Her face was calm. Professional. We prepare for the worst, she said, and pray it doesn't come. She returned to the trauma bay 15 minutes later. Dr. Hale was waiting for her, his face tight with fear and anger. Cross, what the hell is going on? I've got soldiers telling me we're in lockdown. I've got the administration demanding answers I don't have. And you're just walking around like you own the place, doctor, Alina interrupted. I need you to listen very carefully. Something in her voice made him stop. We may have a biological contamination situation, she said quietly. The Marines who came in tonight were exposed to something at the explosion site. We won't know for sure until we run blood tests. But until we do, this entire wing needs to be sealed. Dr. Hale's face went white. Biological. Jesus Christ. What kind of that's classified? Classified. You're a nurse. How do you even know? I know, Alina said, her voice dropping to something cold and hard. And right now, that's all you need to worry about. She walked past him toward the Marine with the head injury. He was still unconscious. She pulled on fresh gloves and began taking blood samples. Dr. Hale followed her. You can't just commandeer my trauma bay, watch me.
Ow.
She labeled the vials, handed them to a nurse. Get these to the lab. Priority 1. I need a full panel. Blood chemistry, white cell count, and specifically check for hemorrhagic markers. The nurse took the vials and ran. Dr. Hale grabbed Elena's arm. I'm calling the hospital administrator. You're going to explain yourself too, Alina turned. Looked at his hand on her arm. Then looked up at his face. Her expression was empty. Completely empty. Let go, she said quietly. He did, immediately. Good, Alina said. Now listen. In about 30 minutes, a military containment team is going to arrive. They're going to take over this entire floor. You can either help me prepare for that, or you can get in the way. Your choice. This is insane. The monitor next to them started beeping rapidly. Alina turned. One of the Marines, Corporal Davis, the one with the burns, was seizing. She moved fast, grabbed the bed rail. Get me 5 milligrams of lorazepam. Now, a nurse appeared with the syringe. Alina administered it. The seizure slowed, stopped, but Davis's temperature was spiking. The monitor showed 103, then 104.2 fast. Elena's heart sank. Doctor, she said quietly. Check his eyes. Dr. Hale leaned over, pulled back Davis's eyelids, then he stumbled backward, his face gray. Oh God, there's blood. In his eyes? He's bleeding from yes, Alina said. He is. She looked at her watch. 2 hours since the explosion. The incubation period should have been 4 to 6 hours. Which meant the weapon was mutating, or it was worse than they'd thought. Alina pulled off her gloves, threw them in the biohazard bin, took a breath. Then she walked to the center of the trauma bay and raised her voice. Everyone stop what you're doing. The room went silent. Nurses froze. Dr. Hale stared at her. The soldiers by the door turned. As of this moment, Alina said clearly, this facility is under quarantine. No one leaves. No one enters. If you've had any contact with the patients from tonight's incident, you need to report to the isolation wing immediately for screening. Who the hell do you think you are? Dr. Hale shouted. Alina turned to look at him, and for the first time since arriving at St. Michael's 8 months ago, she let him see who she really was. Someone who's trying to keep you alive, she said quietly. Then she walked toward the doors. The soldiers stepped aside without being asked. Outside in the hallway, Captain Reeves was waiting. "It started," Alina said. He nodded grimly. "The containment team just landed. They'll be here in 10 minutes. It might not be enough." "I know." Alina looked back through the window at the trauma bay, at the nurses scrambling to save lives, at Dr. Hale standing frozen in shock, at the Marines dying on the gurneys. "Captain," she said quietly, "if this goes wrong—" "I know," he repeated. She met his eyes. "Make sure the protocols are followed. No exceptions. Even for you?" Elena's jaw tightened. "Especially for me." The containment team arrived in unmarked vehicles. No lights. No sirens. Just black SUVs rolling into the emergency bay like shadows. Alina watched from the 4th-floor window. She counted the figures as they exited. 12 personnel. Full hazmat suits. Portable quarantine equipment. Biohazard containers. They moved with military precision. She recognized the walk of the team leader even through the suit. Colonel Sarah Chen, one of the best in the field. They'd worked together before. In Syria. During the outbreak that never made the news, Elena's phone buzzed. A text, encrypted, from Chen. 4th floor. 5 minutes. Alina pocketed the phone and turned back to the isolation wing. She'd moved all 6 Marines here. 3 were stable. 2 were deteriorating rapidly. 1 was already gone. The young Marine from the first gurney. The one she'd brought back from Flatline. He'd crashed again 20 minutes ago. This time, there was no saving him. Alina had closed his eyes herself. He was 19 years old. Now he was in a body bag in the corner, sealed, tagged, waiting for disposal. She pushed the grief down, locked it away. There would be time for that later if there was a later. The door to the isolation wing opened. Colonel Chen entered, still in full hazmat gear. She pulled off her helmet. "Artemis, Colonel." They didn't shake hands. Couldn't. It's not until the decontamination protocols were complete. Chen looked around the wing. Her eyes cataloged everything. The patients. The equipment. "The sealed doors sit rep," she said. 6 initial casualties, Alina reported. 1 Kia, 2 critical. 3 stable but showing early symptoms. Fever spikes, hemorrhaging, accelerated progression beyond initial projections. How accelerated? Incubation should have been 4 to 6 hours. We're seeing symptoms at 2 hours. Chen's jaw tightened. The weapon mutated, or it was never what we thought it was. Chen pulled out a tablet, brought up a file. "We recovered fragments from Site 17. Preliminary analysis confirms Crimson Dawn, but there's something else. A second compound. Something not in the original formula. Enhanced lethality. Enhanced everything. Transmission rate. Symptom onset. Mortality. Whoever modified this thing wanted it to burn fast and burn hot." Alina felt a cold weight in her stomach. "Do we have a treatment protocol?" Chen hesitated. Just for a second, that was answer enough. "Experimental," Chen said. "Untested. 50-50 chance it works. And even if it does, it might just slow the progression rather than stop it. Better than nothing, maybe." Chen looked at the Marines in the beds. How many people were exposed? Alina had already calculated this. Direct contact. 6 patients. 12 medical staff. For soldiers. 22 total in secondary. Unknown. We've sealed the trauma wing. But before lockdown, staff were rotating. Moving through the hospital. If any of them were contagious, she didn't need to finish. Chen understood. She'd seen it before, too. How fast something like this could spread in a contained environment? A hospital was the worst possible place for an outbreak. Lots of sick people. Weakened immune systems. Close quarters. A perfect breeding ground. "We need to start the treatment protocol," Alina said. "Now, for everyone with direct exposure. That includes you." Lena nodded. "I know." Chen studied her face. "You don't look sick. Not yet. When was your last exposure? Alina thought back. Touching the Marines, their blood on her gloves. The one moment when her hand had slipped and touched her face? 3 hours ago. Long enough, she said quietly. Chen pulled out a case. Inside were syringes. 12 of them, filled with something that looked like liquid mercury. This is the treatment, Chen said. It's a synthetic antibody compound, designed to target the viral proteins, but Artemis. I know, Alina said. The side effects. She'd read about this compound, developed in black site labs, never approved for human trials. The side effects ranged from mild nausea to complete organ failure. Roll the dice, live or die. Start with the Marines, Alina said. Then the medical staff. What about you? Last, Artemis last, Alina repeated firmly. I can still function. They need it more. Chen wanted to argue. Alina could see it in her eyes. But they both knew time was wasting. Chen nodded and moved to the first patient. The treatment took 30 minutes. Each patient received the injection. Then came the waiting, watching for reactions. Watching for improvement or watching for the end. Corporal Davis was the first to respond. His fever began dropping. The hemorrhaging slowed. Within 20 minutes, he opened his eyes. Ma'am, he whispered, looking at Alina. You're okay, she said softly. Just rest. The second Marine showed similar improvement. Then the third. But the fourth didn't respond. His fever kept climbing. The bleeding worsened. And then his heart stopped. Chen tried to revive him. Compressions, defibrillator, advanced protocols. Nothing worked. To Kia now, Alina watched in silence. Her face betrayed nothing. But inside she was counting for Marines left. 12 staff members. Herself, how many would make it to sunrise? Chen finally stepped back from the dead Marine. She pulled off her gloves. Her face was grim. It's not enough, she said quietly. Even with the treatment, we're losing them. Then we need to find what will work. There isn't time for research, then we make time, Alina said. Her voice was hard, final. We figure out what makes the difference. Why some respond and others don't. There has to be a pattern. Chen looked at her, really looked at her. When's the last time you slept? Irrelevant. Artemis, Colonel? I don't have time for this. Alina turned toward the computer terminal. I need full access to the lab results. Blood work. Genetic profiles. Medical histories. Anything that might tell us who survives and who doesn't. Chen hesitated. Then she pulled out a keycard, handed it to Alina. This will get you into our field lab. First floor. East wing. Everything we've collected is there. Alina took the card, started toward the door. Artemis, Chen called after her. Alina stopped. You need the treatment too. Soon you're already past the safe window. I know. Then take it. Her expression was calm, resolved. When everyone else is safe, she said. Not before. She walked out. The field lab was a converted storage room. White walls, bright lights, equipment everywhere, microscopes, centrifuges, computers. Linked to analysis software, Alina entered and locked the door behind her. Then she allowed herself one. Moment, just one. She leaned against the wall, closed her eyes, took a shaking breath. Her head was pounding. Her skin felt hot. She was burning up from the inside. Early symptoms, she had maybe 2 hours left before it got bad. Alina opened her eyes, pushed off the wall, walked to the computer terminal. No time for fear, no time for doubt. She pulled up the blood work from all 6 Marines, compared the profiles, looked for differences. Blood type, genetic markers, pre-existing conditions there, something in the platelet count. The Marines who responded to treatment had higher baseline levels. Their blood was clotting better, fighting back, but the ones who didn't respond, Alina leaned closer to the screen, pulled up their medical histories. They'd all received the same vaccination 6 months ago, some kind of experimental prophylactic. Against biological weapons, the vaccine was supposed to protect them instead. It was killing them. The modified Crimson Dawn was targeting the antibodies from the vaccine, using them as a delivery system, turning the body's own defenses into weapons. Elena's hands moved across the keyboard, fast, desperate. If the vaccine was the problem, then the solution was... She pulled up the chemical composition, started calculating, running simulations, an inhibitor, something to block the vaccine antibodies, keep them from interacting with the weapon. It would leave the patients vulnerable, exposed, but it might stop the cascade. Elena started synthesizing the formula, pulling compounds from the lab storage, measuring, mixing. Her hands were shaking now. Fever sweat dripped from her forehead. She ignored it. 10 minutes, 15. The formula was ready. She drew it into a syringe, stared at it. This was untested, unproven. It might not work. It might make things worse. But doing nothing was certain death. Elena stood up. The room swayed. She steadied herself against the table. Then she walked toward the door. She had to get this to Chen, had to test it on the remaining patients. Her hand reached for the handle. The world tilted. Elena's knees buckled. She hit the floor hard. The syringe rolled from her hand. No, she thought. Not now. Not yet. But her body wasn't listening anymore. The virus had. Darkness closed in from the edges of her vision. The last thing she saw was the syringe, just inches from her outstretched hand. So close. Then everything went black. Elena woke to the sound of alarms. Her vision was blurred. Her head felt like it had been split open. Every muscle in her body screamed, but she was alive. She was lying on a gurney, 4 lines in her arms, monitor beeping steadily beside her. Someone had found her. Elena tried to sit up. Pain lanced through her chest. She gasped and fell back. Easy. A voice familiar. Colonel Chen appeared beside her, still in hazmat gear. Don't move. You've been out for 40 minutes. 40 minutes. Too long. The formula, Elena croaked. Her throat was raw. Did you? We found it, Chen said. And we tested it. Elena searched her face. Did it work? Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. It worked. Relief flooded through Elena like cold water. The Marines. Stable, all 4 of them. We administered your inhibitor compound, and it stopped the progression. They're still sick, but they're fighting back now. Elena closed her eyes. Thank God. And the staff. We treated everyone with direct exposure. So far, everyone's responding. Chen paused, including you. Elena looked down at the 4 in her arm. The bag was filled with her own formula. Slightly modified, enhanced. You changed it, she said. Had to. You were too far gone for the base version. We increased the concentration. Added a secondary compound to boost your immune response. Chen's expression was grim. It was risky. Could have killed you faster, but it didn't. No, it didn't. Elena tried to sit up again. This time, Chen helped her. The room spun briefly, then steadied. How long until I can function? Elena asked. You should rest for at least how long? Chen sighed. You're impossible. You know that? That's not an answer. 12 hours. Maybe less if you push it, which I know you will. Elena swung her legs over the side of the gurney. The world tilted. She gritted her teeth and waited for it to pass. What's the status outside? She asked. Containment is holding. We've screened every staff member who had contact with the trauma wing. Found 3 more with early symptoms. All treated. No secondary spread beyond the hospital. And Site 17. Jin's face darkened. We sent a team. The entire facility is gone. Burned to nothing. But we found something in the rubble. She pulled out a tablet. Showed Elena a photo. It was a body. Burned beyond recognition. But around its neck was a chain. A dog tag. But not military. Corporate Elena leaned closer. Read the name embossed on the metal. Dr. Marcus Hale. Her blood went cold. That's impossible, she said. Dr. Hale is here. In the hospital. That's Marcus Hale's twin brother, Chen interrupted. Dr. Richard Hale, former bioweapons researcher for a private military contractor, disappeared 6 months ago. Apparently, he's been hiding at Site 17. Lena's mind raced. The explosion wasn't an attack. No, it was a theft gone wrong. Richard Hale was trying to steal the Crimson Dawn sample. But he triggered the facility's self-destruct, killed himself and his team in the process, and released the weapon. Chen nodded. We think he panicked. Broke containment trying to escape. The Marines were responding to the explosion when they got exposed. Alina looked at the photo again. At the burned corpse. At the dog tag, does Marcus know? She asked quietly. Not yet. I wanted to tell him myself, but he's been difficult to find. Lena's instincts prickled. Something was wrong. Where is he now? Chen checked her tablet. Security footage shows him leaving the trauma wing an hour ago. He went down to the parking garage, but he hasn't left the building. Show me the footage. Chen pulled up the video. Alina watched Dr. Hale walk through the corridors. His movements were stiff, mechanical, wrong. Zoom in on his face. Alina said Chen did. Alina's heart stopped. Dr. Hale's eyes were red. Bloodshot. The early signs of hemorrhaging. He's infected, Alina whispered. That's impossible. He wasn't on the direct exposure list because he had secondary contact, Alina said, her voice sharp. He was in the trauma wing for hours. Before we initiated quarantine, he touched the patients, their blood, their fluids. Chen swore. How long has he been symptomatic? Alina thought back. Dr. Hale arguing with her. His face flushed. His hands shaking. She'd thought it was anger. But it wasn't. At least 2 hours, Alina said. Maybe more. Then he's contagious. Alina slid off the gurney. Her legs almost buckled. She forced them to hold. Where does that hallway lead? She asked, pointing at the screen. Chen pulled up the building schematics. Storage. Maintenance tunnels? And she stopped. And what? Chun's face went white. The ventilation control room. Alina felt ice flood her veins. The ventilation system. The one that connected every floor. Every room. Every isolated wing, if Hale accessed those controls. If he opened the airflow between the infected zone and the rest of the hospital, he'll spread it to everyone, Alina said. Why would he do that? Alina remembered Dr. Hale's face. His arrogance, his contempt, his desperate need to be important, to be recognized, and now his brother was dead. Killed trying to steal a weapon. Maybe Marcus wanted to finish what? Richard started. Or maybe the fever had driven him insane. Either way, the result was the same. We need to get to that ventilation room, Alina said. Now she started toward the door. Chen grabbed her arm. You can barely stand. Let me send a team. There's no time. Artemis Alina turned. Met her eyes. I know that hospital better than anyone. I know the layout. The shortcuts. The access codes. Your team would take 10 minutes to get there. And you. 5. Chen hesitated. Then she'll let go. Take this, she said, handing Alina a sidearm. Standard issue. 15 rounds. Alina checked the weapon. Chambered. Safety off. She hadn't held a gun in 8 months. It felt like coming home, Chen said. She pulled out another syringe. Smaller than the others. Filled with something dark red. What is it? Emergency adrenaline compound. Experimental. It'll give you about 30 minutes of full function. After that, I crash. Hard Alina took the syringe. Looked at it. Looked at Chen. If I don't come back, you'll come back. But if I don't, Alina continued quietly, make sure the protocols are followed. Chun's jaw tightened. But she nodded. Alina turned and walked out of the room. In the hallway, she stopped. Pressed the syringe against her arm. Hesitated for just 1 second. Then she pushed the plunger. Fire exploded through her veins. Her vision sharpened. Her muscles flooded with energy. The pain disappeared. She felt strong, clear, unstoppable. She also knew it was a lie. But right now, she needed the lie. Alina started running. The maintenance tunnels were dark. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. The walls were narrow. Pipes ran along the ceiling. Water dripped somewhere in the distance. Alina moved fast. The gun held low, her footsteps silent. She'd trained for this. For environments like this, for threats like this, but never in a hospital, never in a place. It was supposed to save lives. She turned a corner, stopped ahead. The door to the ventilation control room was open. Light spilled out. And inside, she could hear someone typing. Fast. Desperate. Alina approached slowly. Looked through the doorway. Dr. Hale was at the control panel. His face was gray. Sweat poured down his temples. His hands shook as they moved across the keyboard. On the screen, she could see the ventilation system schematics. He was opening the vents, connecting the isolated wings to the main airflow in 5 minutes. Contaminated air would be pumping through the entire hospital. Step away from the controls, Alina said quietly. Dr. Hale spun around. His eyes were wild, red with burst blood vessels. Cross, he gasped. You don't understand. I have to. I have to finish this. Finish what? What Richard started. His voice cracked. My brother. He was trying to expose them. The government. The military. They've been developing these weapons for years. Lying to everyone? So you're going to kill innocent people? They're not innocent. He shouted, No one is. This whole system, it's corrupt. It needs to burn. Alina kept her gun steady. You're sick. The fever's making you. I'm not sick. I'm awake. He laughed. It was a horrible sound. For the first time in my life, I see clearly. His finger moved toward the keyboard. Don't, Alina warned. Or what? You'll shoot me? He smiled. Blood was seeping from his gums. I'm already dead. He pressed the key. Alina fired. The bullet hit him in the shoulder. He screamed and fell backward, away from the controls. She rushed forward, grabbed the keyboard, started entering commands. Closing the vents, reversing the airflow. Behind her, Dr. Hale was crawling toward her. His eyes burned with fever and madness. Can't stop it, he wheezed. You can't stop any of it. Alina kept typing. 10 seconds. 5. Done. The ventilation system reset. The contaminated air was contained. She turned back to Dr. Hale. He was lying on the floor now, his breathing shallow. Help me, he whispered. Alina knelt beside him, checked his pulse. It was weak, erratic. I'm sorry, she said quietly. It's too late. He looked at her, and for just a moment, the madness cleared. I just wanted to matter. You did, Alina lied. You do. Double quotes. Dr. Hale closed his eyes and stopped breathing. Alina sat back. The adrenaline was wearing off now. The exhaustion was coming back. Harder than before, she pulled out her radio. Chen, this is Artemis. Threat neutralized. Ventilation system secure. Copy that. Are you okay? Alina looked at the body on the floor. At the gun in her hand. At the blood on her clothes. I'm fine, she said. Another lie, but necessary. She stood up, walked out of the control room, back through the tunnels, back toward the isolation wing. Her legs were shaking. Her vision was blurring. The compound was failing. Just a little further, she told herself. Just a few more steps. She reached the stairwell, started climbing. 1 step, 2, 3. Her body gave out on the 4th. Alina collapsed. And this time, she didn't wake up right away. Part 6, Alina woke to sunlight. Real sunlight. Not the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital. Not the red glow of emergency lighting. Actual dawn. She opened her eyes slowly. Her body ached. Everything hurt. But it was a clean pain. The kind that meant healing, not dying. She was in a private room. Monitors beeped softly. 4 bags hung beside her bed. Through the window, she could see the parking lot. The city beyond, Normal, quiet, safe. Welcome back. Lena turned her head. Colonel Chen sat in a chair beside the bed. She looked exhausted, but she was smiling. How long? Alina asked. Her voice was hoarse. 36 hours, Chen said. You crashed hard. We weren't sure you'd make it, but I did. But you did. Lena looked down at her hands. They were steady, clean, no blood. The others? She asked. All stable. The Marines are recovering. The staff members are clear. No secondary infections. No casualties beyond the 2 we lost in the initial exposure. 2 lives lost, too many, but it could have been so much worse. Dr. Hale, Alina asked quietly. Chen's expression darkened. We recovered his body. The official story is that he suffered a mental break due to his brother's death. Tried to damage hospital infrastructure, was stopped before he could hurt anyone. And the truth stays classified. Chen leaned forward. Artemis, what you did? You've saved hundreds of lives. Maybe thousands. If that weapon had spread through the ventilation system, she didn't finish. She didn't need to. Alina closed her eyes. I didn't do it alone. No, but you led the response. You found the cure. You stopped Hale. Chen paused. And you almost died doing it. Alina opened her eyes. Looked at Chen. What happens now? Now, Chen smiled slightly. Now you recover. Doctor's orders. And then we'll see. Chen stood up. Walked to the window. You've been dark for 8 months. Living as a nurse? No contact with the agency. No missions. No backup. That was the deal. The deal was you'd get a break. Time to decompress. To be normal. Chen turned back. But you're not normal, are you? Alina didn't answer, because they both knew the truth. The agency wants you back, Chen said quietly. Full reinstatement. Your old team, your old clearance, and if I say no, then you say no. You've earned that right. Alina looked out the window. At the sunrise, at the world going about its business, people driving to work, living their lives, not knowing how close they'd come to disaster. I need time to think, she said. Chen nodded. Take all the time you need. She walked to the door, stopped, looked back. I think you're incredible, and whatever you decide, I'm proud to have worked with you. Then she left. 3 days later, Alina was cleared to leave her room. She dressed in clean scrubs, pulled her hair back, walked out into the hallway. The hospital looked different now, cleaner, brighter. The trauma wing was back to normal. Operations like nothing had ever happened. She took the elevator down to the first floor. The doors opened, and she stopped. The entire lobby was full of people. Hospital staff, administrators, doctors, nurses, and soldiers. Dozens of them. In dress uniforms, standing at attention, at the front of the crowd stood the 4 Marines she'd saved. Still bandaged, still healing, but alive. Corporal Davis saw her first. His eyes widened. Tension. Someone shouted. Every soldier in the room snapped to attention. Elena's breath caught. What was happening? The crowd parted, and through the center walked a man in a formal dress uniform. 4 stars on his shoulders, ribbons covering his chest. A general. He stopped in front of Alina, looked her in the eye. Then he saluted. Major Alina Cross, he said, his voice carrying through the silent lobby. United States Marine Corps Special Operations Command. It is my honor to commend you for your actions during the bioweapon containment operation. Alina felt the floor tilt beneath. Her major, her real rank, her real identity. Exposed to everyone, the general continued. Your leadership, tactical expertise, and selfless courage prevented a catastrophic loss of life. You are a credit to the Corps and to your country. He lowered his salute, then extended his hand. Alina stared at him, at the room full of people watching her slowly. She accepted the handshake. The lobby erupted in applause. The nurses were clapping. The doctors. The administrators. The soldiers were cheering. Even the patients who could walk had gathered to watch. Alina looked around. Saw their faces. Saw the respect, the gratitude, the awe. She found Colonel Chen in the crowd. Chen nodded, a small smile on her face. This was her doing. She'd arranged this. Made sure Elena's sacrifice was recognized. The general released her hand. We've prepared a formal commendation ceremony. If you're willing to attend. Lena found her voice. Sir, I'm just a nurse. The general smiled. No, Major. You're a Marine, and Marines take care of their own. He gestured to the 4 wounded Marines. They stepped forward. Corporal Davis spoke first. His voice shook. Ma'am, we just wanted to say thank you. You saved our lives. All of us. The other Marines nodded. One of them was crying. Elena felt something crack inside her chest. The wall she'd built. The distance she'd maintained. It was crumbling. You don't need to thank me, she said quietly. I was just doing my job. Your job was to be a nurse, Davis said. But you did so much more than that. The general cleared his throat. Major Cross, I understand you've been on extended leave, living under cover, and I want you to know that assignment is complete. You're cleared to return to active duty whenever you're ready. Alina looked at him. And if I'm not ready? Then you take the time you need. The general's expression softened. But the Corps needs people like you. People who can move between worlds. Who can operate in the shadows and step into the light when it matters most. He handed her an envelope. Your new orders. If you choose to accept them. Lena took the envelope. Felt the weight of it. Inside was her future. Her real future. No more pretending. No more hiding. Thank you, sir, she said. The general saluted again. She returned it. Then he turned and walked away. The other officers following. The crowd began to disperse. People approached Alina, shaking her hand. Thanking her, she saw Dr. Patricia Wells in the crowd. The head of nursing. The woman who'd hired her 8 months ago. Dr. Wells looked shell-shocked. Lena, she said quietly. I had no idea. That was the point, Alina said gently. You've been here for 8 months. Working alongside us. And you're a Marine, Alina finished. But also a nurse. That part was real. Dr. Wells shook her head slowly. Whatever you decide, thank you. For everything. Then she walked away. Alina stood alone in the lobby. People still milled around. Still watching her. Still whispering her cover was blown. Her secret life was over. She opened the envelope the general had given her. Inside was a single sheet of paper. New orders. A new team. A new mission. She could accept it. Go back to the world of shadows and secrets. Or she could walk away. Stay here. Be just a nurse. Live a normal life. Both paths stretched out before her. Alina folded the paper. Put it back in the envelope. She didn't need to decide today. She walked toward the exit. The automatic doors slid open. Sunlight poured in. Outside the world was waiting. She stepped into the light and smiled. Maybe she didn't need to choose. Maybe she could be both. The nurse and the soldier. The invisible and the hero. The person who saved lives in the shadows. And in the light, Alina walked toward her car. Behind her, the hospital stood tall. Inside, people were healing. Because of her, she pulled out her phone. Dialed a number, Colonel Chen answered. Artemis. I read the orders, Alina said, and Alina looked back at the hospital. At the people coming and going. At the normalcy she'd fought to protect. When do I start? She asked. Chen laughed softly. Welcome back, Major. Alina ended the call, got in her car, and drove toward whatever came next, because that's what Marines did. They answered the call every single time. If this story moved you, there are dozens more like it on Silent Badge Stories. Heroes who walk among us. Protectors we never see. Hit that subscribe button and join our community. Because the best stories are the ones about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Thank you for watching.